And welcome to our first installment of the American Conversation Series Public Forums, an evening with Donna Brazile and Mercedes Schlapp, the state of political discourse in today's America, moderated by Shepherd University President Mary Hendrix. Throughout the academic year, there will be several more forums, so please go on our Facebook page and our website for updates. The mission of the Institute is to study and promote how intelligent, authentic, and civil political discourse can play an essential role in our nation's ability to better meet challenges and solve problems, and to offer a platform on how opposite viewpoints can be respected and legitimized in ways that avoid negative labeling and alienation. Moreover, we seek to demonstrate that civil political engagement in these challenging times is directly tied to positive civic engagement. Before we begin, I wish to thank the Institute's Board of Advisors, staff, and consulting team, most of whom are in attendance tonight, and to especially acknowledge Dr. Stephanie Slocum-Schaefer, the Institute's faculty representative, for her partnership and support, Sarah Burke, our Communications and Events Manager, for organizing tonight's forum, and Institute co-founders and board members David Avella and Scott Widmeyer for arranging our speakers. So many other people that I could thank and acknowledge, and we have so many partners here on campus that I'm getting to know, and I want to thank all of you. You know who you are, but thank you for your support in making sure that the people you know turned out. One of the groups of people that I wanted to pay some attention to just for a moment, because I don't think they get enough love, and if you will, would the members of the Shepherd University debate team please stand up if you're in the room, and I can't see where you are with the lights. Let's give them a big round of applause. The national champion debate team, folks. Also in the house this evening, and they're going to hate me for doing this, so I'm going to do it anyway and take my chances, but also in the house this evening are Bonnie and Bill Stubblefield, whose generous gift and commitment to political civility made this institute possible. Please, Bonnie and Bill, would you stand up and be recognized? Am I in trouble? Yeah, I figured I was. Now for the introductions of three incredible leaders. Mercedes "Mercy" Schlapp is a first-generation Cuban-American raised in Florida whose father was jailed for 6 years by the government of Cuba. She is a columnist and frequent television commentator who has played key roles in several Republican presidential campaigns. Mercy is the former director of strategic communications for President Donald Trump. She is married to Matt Schlapp, the chair of the American Conservative Union. The Schlapps have 5 daughters. It's a basketball team, isn't it? Well, just saying. Donna Brazile was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. She first became active in politics as a volunteer for Jimmy Carter in 1976. In the years that ensued, Donna rose through the Democratic Party ranks, eventually becoming the first African-American woman to manage a presidential campaign and the first African-American woman to serve as chairperson of a major political party. She is an author, columnist, and television commentator. We are also extremely honored to have as the moderator for tonight's American Conversation, Dr. Mary J.C. Hendrix, the 16th president of Shepherd University, whose leadership, and I mean this, whose leadership and support in the establishment of the Stubblefield Institute has been essential and enthusiastic. It is now my privilege to welcome to the stage Mercedes Schlapp, Donna Brazile, and President Hendrix.
Okay. Oh, this is wonderful. Dave, where are the Rams? Are the Rams in the house? Are the Rams in the house? Oh my gosh. Madam President, we had this little confusion because I just wanted to be on their left. I didn't want no confusion. You know?
This is wonderful.
I mean,
oh my God.
being on Fox News with silver hair, I'm the silver fox. I didn't want any confusion.
I don't know, Donna, I was trying to be more about the bipartisanship. You know, maybe you sit on the right for a little bit and I sit on the left for a little bit.
Well, I'll be sitting on the right when I go home for Thanksgiving. When I start making my gumbo, my sister always argued with me. She said, "That's not how Mama would cook it." I said, "You know what? You're a Republican. You shouldn't say much."
Well, invite your sister to my house. We'll take her in.
Thank you very much. She's number 7, so, you know, you got to have one in the bunch. My mom had, 6 kids, and then finally she gave birth to a Republican.
Oh, my God.
Took a while to get around to it, but, 2 more after that, we're doing okay.
Well, I have 5 daughters, and I'm hoping they all stay Republican, but that middle child, I tell you, she's the social justice warrior, so she might be converted.
Send over to my house. I'll make her some bread pudding.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Well, ladies, thank you. I've already lost control of this series, but I would like to add my very warm welcome to our distinguished guests this evening and to all of our attendees who feel so strongly about promoting civil discourse. Shepherd University is the perfect place to engage in this dialogue because we have a rich history as a teachers' college.
Yay!
And we have emerged into an academic center of excellence for professional development, a cultural hub, and also a catalyst for economic growth in our region, with a very noble mission of training the next generation of leaders and model citizens. So, we are very, very close to Washington, D.C., as you found out today. Maybe not so much in the traffic, but going back, it's a breeze. But although we have this proximity to Washington, we have remained relatively unaffected by the political vitriol we see on the nightly news reports. This evening, we have the extraordinary opportunity to witness distinguished professionals in action as they discuss common ground and differences on various issues. The questions I will present have been contributed by community members, by Shepherd students and faculty, and myself. So before we get started, I have told our wonderful speakers and guests this evening what a wonderful audience you are, how civil you all are, all right? So this is great. So first question, in the environment of deep polarization on all fronts, is there a way for the average citizen to have an objective source for news? Who would like to take that? That's not a yes or no.
Donna, you better say Fox.
Well, don't get me fired tonight. A few months ago, before my good friend Cokie Roberts passed away, I believe Cokie and Steve came to the Byrd Center here on campus.
Yes.
Cokie Roberts said at that time that to be credible today, and I'm not quoting her, Louisianians, we don't quote anything from scripture, not even recipes. We have to go to Mississippi to get a translation to make sure we're not following anything that Alabamians or Texans do. But Cokie said that today she believed, because of all of the conversation we're having about fake news and, mischaracterizations, misinterpretations, she says it's important that reporters get it right. And therefore, in the past, they would, ultimately look for one source, but today they're looking for 2 or 3 or 4 sources. I think that is good. In order for us to have a healthy democracy, we need a free press. We need a functioning free press. It is as vital to the success of our democracy as the political branches of government, which, by the way, I have to tell you this. There was a poll just recently by the Annenberg School, and 39% of Americans can identify all 3 branches of government. They were 39%,
Wow.
and only 25% of us can identify one branch of government. Now, when they wrote up the press release, and you can go and look it up, they said, you know, this is a 7% increase since the last time we took the poll in 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a crisis, and that crisis is we don't know our history. We don't know our American history because it's our shared history. We don't teach civics. We don't interact with each other. We don't engage with one another. We sort of look at our labels and then say, I don't want to hear from you. The truth of the matter is that the Republican Party is not the largest party in American politics. The Democratic Party, much to my chagrin, we're not the largest party. It's non-aligned independents. You're the majority of Americans, you're the majority of voters. And yet we have to appeal to you. And the best way to appeal to you is to listen to you, to understand your needs, your concerns, your values, but to try to make sure that we represent your needs as well as the needs of the partisans that we both represent.
Beautiful.
If I,
Mercedes.
on the issue of sources, during my time in the White House, I worked obviously with Sarah Sanders and Bill Shine at the time. One of the things that we struggled with was the fact that you had so many of these journalists who had already pretty much come up with their opinion of what story they were going to write. And so they would come in and say, oh, we've talked to this source close to the White House or familiar with the White House. Obviously, that source might have a particular agenda of what story they want to push. And so while we were actually, let's say, in the meeting with the president, and we would give our version of the story, the headline would never come out, or most of the time would never come out in favor of the president, for example. I mean, when you look at so many of these journalists, and I'm not saying all of them, there are some reputable journalists, Koki being one of them, and you know, I can tell you, just folks I have worked with in the White House who really want to get the story right. But what we found is that there was a significant number of these journalists in the White House press corps that had an agenda. I mean, it was very clear. All you needed to go was go to their Twitter feed, and you knew exactly their vitriol towards this president. And so that, to us, was a big challenge that we faced within the White House. And so when it comes to sourcing, yeah, you could have 3 or 4 sources, but you got to make sure these sources are accurate and make sure you get those people who were actually in the meeting to provide what was happening in the actual meeting. A lot of times, the perfect example, just last week, and this is kind of a lighter story, there's this one reporter, my husband and I went to the Trump-Pence Halloween witch hunt party rally out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania with Diamond and Silk, and it was we had a great time, and it was wonderful. We got up there, talked about what the president has been able to accomplish. There was this one reporter who wrote the story because it was Ivanka Trump's birthday, so I had the crew basically sing happy birthday to Ivanka Trump. I videotaped it and I texted it to Ivanka and I said, hey, from Pennsylvania, happy birthday. These supporters want to wish you happy birthday. Well, the reporter wrote this piece, and it's, you know, again, it's frivolous, but she's like, yes, and so Mercedes put it up on Instagram and Ivanka didn't even view it. And you know, and it's like,
gosh.
I wanted, so part of me was like, do I even call the reporter to be like, you, come on, seriously. I mean, you know, she doesn't get the story right because she never asked me, did you ever send it to Ivanka Trump? Now, this is totally frivolous. There's bigger issues, bigger policy issues that you want to get right. That is critical. But I do think when it comes to sourcing, there needs to be some accuracy. And a lot of these reporters go to those sources because they know they're going to tell the story that they want them to tell. And so to answer your question on the objectivity standpoint, do you go and find an objective news source? Look, there has been an evolution of the newsroom. And you're going to find the Foxes on one side, Fox News on one side, CNN and NBC on the other side. But what has happened is you, the citizen, you, the individual, you, the student, you need to ask the questions. Is this right? Is this not right? Read from the far left to the far right to learn what narratives they're pushing. And then you, as the intelligent American, the well-informed citizen, can come back and say, all right, I've read from a variety of resources, and this is what I believe is right, and this is what I believe is true. I mean, you have to question, you know, and really ensure that you're informed to be able to make the best arguments based on, you know, on who you support or what you believe in.
But I do believe that journalists need to be, remember, journalists have an ethics. They have a code of ethics. Journalists, you know, go to school, most journalists go to school to learn their craft. I'm a pundit. I am a partisan with a point of view. And when I'm on TV, I play myself. I'm not a journalist.
But Donna, like when you look at Jim Acosta, I mean, do you think he's a journalist? Does he fairly give an objective point of view when he's addressing the news? I think what has happened is yes, we are the pundits.
Right.
But I think that there are those number of journalists who have decided that they want to be pundits too, and they want to hit, especially in the case of, in the new Trump era of media, that they want to hit the president as hard as they can. And obviously there is little to no objectivity when it comes to how they cover this president.
I think it's a love-hate relationship. The president gets more out of it than the journalist, I think, because he controls the narrative. And if there's one thing I am jealous, you know, I have my jealousies. And it's not just his hair, which I've come to. I had my one and only close-up with President Trump during the 2016 campaign, in which I whispered in his ear, he should watch the Super Bowl since he's in New Hampshire, and the Patriots, okay? But I guess I want to turn this around just a little bit. TV now, especially cable television, is about this. We want polar opposites, and we want sort of like this tension, this friction, this dissension, and it's almost as if we can sit here and talk about infrastructure. We could talk about the new NAFTA, whatever you want to call, you know, trade agreement. We could talk about the trade tariffs with China, prescription medication prices. I can go on and on and on about things that we will find common ground. We may have different ways to get to it, but we believe in that we should do something to lower the price of prescription medication. Notice I didn't say drugs. Mm-hmm. My grandmother prohibited us from saying she was not taking drugs when we went to get her good MBC powder. She said that's medicine. So, but here we are as a country divided by two non-major parties.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
And what the leaders of those two minority parties are thinking, not the majority of the American people. Ultimately, you will decide the outcome of the 2020 election.
But does the media cover the policy issues that significantly? No. They want the drama. They want the West Wing drama. They want to know what's happening on the Hill, who's hating who. That's what they want. It's what they're interested. It's like reality TV when it comes to politics. And so there's a lack of discussion when it comes to the policy discussions.
Reality TV.
Hey, here we go. All right.
Okay. So the point is that we are entertaining you. We are. Because we have replaced the substance with the superficial. Yes. You cannot explain the Affordable Care Act in less than 30 seconds. I don't care. It's 2,000 plus pages.
That's
the
less
Mueller
than 30
report
seconds.
was 448 pages. No, that's not true. And you can ask millions of Americans about that.
You have skyrocketed premiums that have come from Obamacare. Let's be real. Even the Democrats want to change Obamacare.
No, the Democrats, remember, they're 5 different Medicare for all bills. Unfortunately, I ruined my weekend reading about it.
Oh. Yep, and it's costing $52 trillion for Senator Warren.
But that is $20 trillion more than what it will cost us if we do nothing. So the question is, do we continue to have the most costly healthcare system in the world that everybody claims is broken, or do we try to find ways to improve it so there's more accountability, more competition, and more transparency?
That's right, but going to a single-payer system won't work. It won't work. It's more bureaucratic, it's more government control, and it takes the healthcare out of it.
But I'm not Bernie. I didn't write the damn bill. And God knows my
my
peck is peck and my heart is working, and God bless Bernie for working harder than James Brown. Again, when you come to talk about issues as complicated as healthcare and our healthcare delivery system, you cannot simply argue and using slangs and any other kind of demeanor. This is a serious issue for Americans because more and more Americans find themselves unable to afford the high cost of premium, the high cost of prescription medication. I just finished reading the day. That's not me. That's you? Oh.
We're not letting Dr. Hendrix ask.
I was like, I know I'll go invent the internet, but why am I buzzing? But I just finished reading a story today in states that did not accept Medicaid expansion, and how a family of 4 with $22,000 a year on average premium costs from their employer, as well as what they pay in and so forth and so on. And she can't afford her insulin.
No,
Ladies and gentlemen, we can solve these problems. We don't need a quote-unquote liberal or conservative test. We need a test that works for every American. So when you go and get a test, perhaps you need to take that test, and not because your doctors want to rule out everything. So you got to get an MRI, an EKG, and all them other things. I got stuck so many times the other day, I said, I know it's Halloween because y'all want my blood.
That is excellent. Okay, my turn. Sorry.
When I grow up, I want to be president. What can I say, huh?
Okay.
Madam President, I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you so much. Now, this is a real question. Have either of you been affected by negative press? And if so, how have you handled it? I'm guessing yes, but how have you handled it?
Well, can I start?
Yes,
okay,
dear.
the president tweeted one day a couple of weeks ago that I was wonderful. Oh my God. He said, I don't know why Fox News hired the wonderful Donna Brazile. I thought Valentine's Day had hit me twice. Then the next day he corrected it and it wasn't so nice. Yes, that's part of, I mean, it's like any politician, any public servant, you're going to get the good and the bad. But hopefully it's not about your ego or your identity or what you think, you know, who you think you are. My mother taught me as a young girl. She said, it's not what they call you. And remember why she had to teach me this and my other siblings. Because of the names we were being called. Simply because of the way we looked. So my mother said, it's not what they call you, it's what you answer to. And so despite the fact that I may get trashed, hit, attacked, tweeted, deleted, my job is I pray for my president. I don't pray just because he tweets at me. I pray because he's the president of the United States. We only have one president. Now, I am not going to vote for Donald Trump next year. He knows he won't get my vote.
There's a chance. Come on, Donna.
But that doesn't mean that I will not respect the office of the presidency and the occupant of the White House.
Amen.
That's number one.
Excellent. Good. Thank you. That's good.
Now, there are some gratuitous people out there who don't know us, but they act as if they know us. And some of the worst tweets or hits that we get them simply because we're women and we're outspoken.
That's right.
And some of our male colleagues don't get that. But we get it. And the misogyny must stop. Women deserve to have a seat at the table, too.
Right. Very good. Thank you. Mercedes. Okay.
So, you know, as a mother of 5 kids, and my husband obviously is one of the public figures as well, we get hit constantly. And Twitter's probably the worst and the darkest place, I would say, that you see this. And so it is about, you know, threatening your kids' lives, you know, calling you all sorts of horrific names. And I think one thing you learn in this business, and I share this with whoever goes into this field, is that 1, you have to have thick skin no matter what. 2 is, for me, my faith is very important to me, and I feel that as that being the center of my life, of my relationship with my husband, is that it gives us strength every day to stand up and keep fighting, because we do believe in saving America. We do believe in this wonderful democracy that we live in, and we want to protect our freedoms for all Americans. And so for us, there's so many times that several individuals on the other side have really want us to shut us down and call us all sorts of names. And I'm a big believer that the day we are silenced is the day we lose America. So I think it's so important to, if you have an opinion, you have the facts on your side, you stand up and you fight. And you stand up and you speak, because I will not be silenced. I mean, my father suffered under communism, where his liberties were taken away from him, and he was thrown into jail because of what he believed in. And so I learned as a young child that I was going to stand for America, and I was going to stand for this democracy. And so that is why it's been my life's calling to continue the wonderful debates that we have with friends of ours on the left, and also ensure that my voice is never silenced. And I think that that's such an important message for our young people, that you know that if you're called names, if they want to shut you down, don't let them. Stand up and speak. We're seeing this happening right now in Hong Kong. These kids, they're university kids who are being beaten up, are being threatened, because they know that their liberties are going to be taken away in 28 years or less by these Chinese communists. But you know what they do? They carry the American flag, they repeat, they quote our founding fathers, and they love America, and they don't want to lose their freedom. So if they're standing up, those kids in Hong Kong, and we have all these rights and freedoms in the United States, let's cherish them, and let's not take them for granted.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Okay, now this is a tough one, okay? And I haven't seen the news this evening, but I have a feeling this is still going on. What are your thoughts around the impeachment inquiry currently underway in Washington, and how it impacts the level of civil discourse among all Americans? Who wants to go first?
I don't know, Donna, you're so entertaining. Well, yeah. I think...
She's going.
Look, I feel, I'm curious to see what Donna thinks about this, but I think for the Democrats, the impeachment process, this impeachment inquiry is a huge political risk. I think that they are spending so much time, and the media itself is spending so much time on every single testimony, on every single impeachment detail, where you have Adam Schiff, who has decided to make these Soviet-style closed hearings, where he leaks out specific information and literally dabbles out information to the press, and not allowing the Republicans to basically even remotely be part of this process, or limiting what the Republicans can do. And so it's watching this process play out, and I think even Speaker Pelosi was nervous about this, where she herself was like, we need the impeachment to be, if we're going to move forward on this, to be bipartisan. And obviously what we saw last week was a partisan vote on this resolution, where they waited 4 weeks to come up with let's have this resolution now, because they were getting so much pressure that they weren't being transparent in the process. And so I do think that it's a losing political strategy for the Democrats. If they want to go ahead and focus on impeachment, the American people are saying, okay, when is USMCA going to be done, Nancy Pelosi? We've been negotiating this for over a year. Why don't we work on getting prescription drugs prices lowered? This is something that we've been trying to work with Nancy Pelosi on. Let's keep working on the infrastructure bill. Nancy Pelosi, they walk away. So if this is a political environment they want to create, I think that it will not be beneficial for the Democrats.
Okay. Do you agree? No.
How much time do I have? Well, when I got up on January 3rd, 2019, and made my way over to the Capitol, I made my way over there because it was a historic day. For the first time in our 240 plus years, we had well over 100 women elected to Congress.
Yeah.
And for me, and so many, I believe, other Americans, watching this new group of citizens take the oath of office was truly a historic day. I believe Nancy Pelosi when she said this was not on our agenda. And for all of the reasons that you saw her scramble to get to 218 votes, when everyone said she would not get there, I knew that the Democratic Party had chosen a seasoned leader to lead one half of the most important branch of government, in my opinion. Now, I say that because I'm a Hill rat. I worked on Capitol Hill, and I love it. I have reason to believe that the reason why I love it is because one of my distant relatives was one of the first elected to Congress from the state of Louisiana. I don't have to tell you all the history of America to know that, yes, in my bloodstream run that of an Irishman. And as a result, I came to Washington because I believe that this institution, the congressional branch, the legislative branch, is where you go to debate ideas. And so there's a big lie in America today that the Democrats are doing nothing. That is a lie. The Democrats are working hard every day. And in fact, last week, right after the so-called impeachment process vote, there was a vote to sanction Turkey because the United States government should stand on the side of its allies, and the United States Congress passed sanctions. Now, and they also passed the Armenian genocide bill, which up until this point we hadn't seen passed. So Pelosi is doing her job, but you know what? She's doing her job, making sure the government is functioning, making sure the appropriations committees are turning out their bills, making sure that we have a H.R. 3, which is a prescription drug bill. Yes, she's very close to working on the NAFTA bill. She supported the old NAFTA. She wants to make sure we don't make the same mistakes in this so-called new NAFTA, especially when we've had so many jobs shift overseas. I can go on and on, from gun safety legislation to food safety legislation to water safety and the environment, but Mitch McConnell has already said he's the Grim Reaper. He doesn't want to take up any bills from the House. So they're languishing in the Senate, but that's all right. It doesn't matter what you call us. Let's get back to the question. And the question on the table is, did President Trump put his own personal or political interests above the national security interests of the United States? If the evidence demonstrates that he did, then the House will proceed with articles of impeachment. If not, Nancy Pelosi, in my honest opinion, a God-fearing Christian woman, a wonderful, superb human being, and I've known a lot of human beings in my almost 60 years of life, she will not take this country through it if she doesn't believe there's enough factual evidence and enough information to bring forward articles of impeachment. That's the Nancy Pelosi I know. That's the Nancy Pelosi I trust.
She should have been transparent from day one.
I will say this. The transcripts are going to be released.
Why didn't they release them 3 weeks ago?
They're
Donna,
being released.
let's be real. This has been to shape the narrative early on. It's what Adam Schiff did, and that is why they keep holding these closed-door hearings where they've leaked specific information to the media. This is what they've been doing every day.
And you know what?
Every day. No transparency. And then they had to vote on the rules 4 weeks later.
There's so much transparency.
There has been no transparency.
There's a reason why we're arguing over process of whether or not Nancy Pelosi turned the paper over after it was typed, before it was Xeroxed and put on the copier machine. There's a reason why we're having that conversation, whether or not, and not having the conversation of somebody calling on a foreign government to interfere in the integrity of our elections.
Okay. That is, it's not a crime.
Our elections.
Donna, it's not a crime.
We must protect the integrity of our elections.
President Obama did nothing to stop the foreign interference.
Not true.
Oh my goodness, Donna,
So,
please.
I can tell you his shortcomings.
Okay.
No, he didn't.
I was there, sis. And I'm calling you sis because as a Christian woman, you're my sister.
I know. You're my sister
And I love
too.
you. And you're not going to ever make me hate you or hate what you think or hate what you believe, because I love you.
Well, and your hair
And I
color
love
is
your
the same
husband,
hair color as
and
my
I love
husband,
your,
so it
I
makes
love
it a
your
little more.
mother-in-law. So I put all of that in context to tell you that I know my truth, and I can tell you, when I heard from the Obama administration to go and get a briefing on what was being done at the DNC, I had no idea. Ladies and gentlemen, I became chair of the party for the second time in my life. Trust me, I've never run for office. I run my mouth too much. But I became chair for the second time as a result of the hacking. And let me say this. Every day that we were notified of the hacking and what was happening, I didn't just sit on my hands. I called my counterpart at the RNC and I said, Rents, if something happened to us, if we go down, I got to make sure your ship continue to sail. And the reason why I did that is because we're Americans.
That's right.
And I thought at the time they were being hacked too. I wanted to form a team, you know, called the badass team. We're going to beat your badass, right? But the truth is that we were hacked. Now, like all of you, I just want us to have a fair fight. And if we lose, we lose. We'll come back next time and we'll do a better job. But no foreign government should try to control the outcome by sowing discords, by using our partisanship and our divisions to make us distrust and hate one another.
That's
so
true.
we need to
Very
make
good.
sure that we protect the
Thank
integrity
you.
of our elections.
Yes, thank you.
And by the way, there were more than one reasons why Donald Trump won.
Okay.
And I was chair of the party, so I can tell you, you don't take 3 states and 78,000 people for granted. So everybody in this state, whether you are red or blue, someone should be contacting you to say, how do you feel? What do you want? Too often in American politics, we take states and locales for granted because we think you're on my team or you're on her team. The truth is, we need to be on one team after Election Day, and that's what
right.
matters in this next election.
That's right. That's
Thank
good
you.
advice.
That's very good
Good
advice.
advice for
Thank
Speaker
you.
Pelosi.
I'll stop my
Good
preaching.
advice.
Excellent. What a great example
Go Rams.
of two, go Rams, thank you. Of two professionals having a little disagreement. It was perfect. Thank
I wish
you.
we could do it over wine next time.
I was going to say.
See, I'm a Christian woman. What was Jesus' greatest miracle? He turned water into wine.
That was
He listened to his mother and got the party started. I'm just drinking this water because I knew it's going to turn soon.
Okay. Now, this is an important question from our debate and forensics team, and they are award-winning. We're so proud of them.
Yeah.
Very proud of them. Thank you. Okay. If you had one piece of advice vis-a-vis civil discourse for President Trump and for the Democratic candidates, what would it be? It may be a little different, but what would it be?
Can I talk to the Democrats?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay, you can do one, Donna, and Mercedes, you do the other. All right.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Oh my gosh.
The wealth tax. The Medicare for All Plus, the single payer, the plus, the Y, the Z's, the green deal, the old deal, the new. Wrap it up. I love my party. I sometimes believe that we're in a contest for who's the smartest boy or girl in class. We also, in addition to we need the smart boy or girl because we're a party that believes in equality for all people. However, wrap it up. If you've been out here on the dance floor since January and you're still at 2%, spend some time with your family during the holidays. Tell me what you value in America. Tell me what you want from us in the 21st century. Tell me how we're going to get there, how we're going to bring the American people together to have the smartest workforce, to have the most competitive military, to have the best students. Tell me how you're going to do that. Stay within the budget, keep America safe and secure, and sit your behind down. Election's over. Okay.
All right.
If we start getting these nickels and dimes and pennies and quarters and trillions and billions, the American people are like, I'll go with the one who's entertaining me on Twitter. Oh, I make mistakes every 260 characters too. I get it. Donald Trump's message is always going to be simple. Our message will always be tough. It's going to be tough because we feel this huge responsibility to save ourselves and to save the planet and to save everybody, because that's why we're Democrats. We're so full of hope and optimism, and that's why we continue to talk and come up with these great policies. But wrap it up.
Very good. Very good advice.
I like that.
Thank you. And I would just say this is being memorialized on C-SPAN, so the candidates will have the opportunity to listen to your great advice.
Don't worry, it won't come out for a couple of days.
Can I come over and visit? I'll put some gumbo.
I think the advice for Democrats, it's a little hard for me because I advise the president, but I would say, if I would put Donna's hat on, I would say, don't embrace socialism to the Democrats. It's a losing message. I think it's very concerning for Americans to know that the United States would move so far to the left, and I think that it really puts, I think for those independent voters like you were talking about, Donna, it becomes an issue for them. And even for moderate Democrats who, I've talked to have said, I can't go that far. I can't embrace the socialism. So I think that's, an area of concern I would advise the Democrats
Can I respond to that?
Please.
I'm a capitalist with a conscience. And the vast majority of Democrats are capitalists. We have one Democratic socialist who is running.
Two, at least.
One announced Democratic socialist who is running. Ladies and gentlemen, there is something deeper than just name calling and labeling and worrying about party affiliation. It's something that should grab us at the fabric of who we are as a society. We have millions of our fellow citizens who live on the outskirts of hope. And they don't know how they're going to come back into the circle of opportunity. Whether it's globalization or technology that has displaced so many of our workers, whether it's a new economy where people have to have certain skills just to get the best jobs, whether it's the cost of, as I call, health care, or even living in a decent place, we cannot ignore the fact that many of our fellow citizens are still struggling. And so they want something different, something new. And that's why so many millennials are saying, well, the old ways are not helping me. They want to make sure that this new economy is going to help everyone. And when you have a graduate degree or undergraduate degree from this great institution, you want to translate that into a job, and a good job.
That's right.
And that is what this battle and this so-called concern is about. It is not going into this direction or that direction. But we got to learn how to meet in the middle, and compromise should not be a dirty word.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And it's why you've seen under the Trump economy, African Americans with the lowest unemployment numbers, Hispanics, lowest unemployment numbers, women, veterans. We are in a strong position on our economy, and we are spending so much time in being part of the Trump administration, where we have been working on workforce development, where we're helping to retrain. We've talked about vocational education, where you don't necessarily have to go to a 4-year college if that's not your route, but you use the Pell Grants, for example, and this is something that's bipartisanship, actually, the bipartisan issues that we can agree on, because we right now are in a much stronger position, as well as helping to uplift all Americans. It's why we push for an opportunity zone, something that both parties can agree on to help invest in distressed communities. So again, I think that there's so many opportunities that we're seeing under the Trump economy that's been very effective. It's why the Democrats don't really even talk about the economy that much
We have,
in the debates.
and just just like during the Obama years when we came from that big hole called the Great Recession, and we found ourselves back on our feet after several years of figuring out how to bail this one out, how to Band-Aid this one. We got somewhere back on our feet, but black wealth went from more than $40,000 in comparison to white wealth, which was already at $127,000, it has dropped down to $3,700. So while there are more black people working, which we all applaud,
the wages are increasing.
which we all applaud,
Income is
working
increasing.
2-3 jobs is not called working when there's nothing, there's no way to improve. So we got to make sure that we can build the wealth of all American citizens, which means that we got to find ways to to more entrepreneurs, create more small businesses, which is what is the engine of the economy. Look, when it comes to job creation and making sure we have jobs for the 21st century, I wouldn't care if it came from a Republican president or a Democratic president, but I do believe that we better make sure that we prepare our citizens for a 21st century work economy where artificial intelligence, I don't know if y'all been to the grocery store lately. First I thought, going into your checkout lane was about saving time, because I have 4 things in a basket. I ain't got 5 children at home. Yeah. All right? I know what that's like. My mama had 9. And thank God, I'm going to send you some coupons. I can feed a family of 9. I know how, my mom used to teach me. But you walk in there, you check it out, and then you got to give a nickel to bag it yourself. And I'm like, artificial intelligence, this is not good. I'm doing all of the work, and then I have to pay a nickel for a bag? Okay, so we're going to displace even more workers. That's right. And who's focusing on those issues? Who's focusing on the economy of the future? That's why I don't spend any time smearing people, calling them fascists, racist, socialists. It's a waste of my breath.
Amen.
When we should be focusing on how we're going to build an economy that works for all people. Otherwise, you're going to have resentment. The urban center is going to be facing the suburbans and the rural and urban. This is all by design unless we tackle these problems and come to the table with solutions. And that's what we should do. We got all these smart people in the world. My mom used to tell me, my daddy talked a lot too, but we rarely heard his voice, because my mom always told him to shut up. She had a reason to tell him. He was 6'5" and she was 5'6", so she said, shut up. But, it was great. When my mom died at 52. My dad, a veteran, a wonderful veteran, died at 82. My dad went to cash his check, and they told him his signature was not on file. My mom was a great lady. I get all my skills from her.
I get it.
But
This is good.
I want you all to think that we have to recreate. I'm changing it up a little bit because I know the president has more. We got to pivot. We got to change it up a little bit. Civility is a Latin word. It means citizen. And we're citizens of the greatest country on earth. And if we don't take our responsibility seriously, apathy is because of disillusionment. And too many of our young people are not caring enough about the future to want to run for office. And you know what I tell my young students every week? Why you? Because there's no one better. And why now? Because tomorrow is not soon enough. Less than 4% of the American people decide to run for office. In a big country like ours, we can have millions of conservatives and millions of liberals, but there will still be millions of citizens who won't align with us and often will stay home. And they're the ones that we should be focused on. They're the ones that have lost hope. And they're the ones that need us to let them know that we love them, we still care for them, and that we're going to bring them into this 21st century economy with new skills and a new ability to transform their lives and their community. Because without that measure of hope, we're not going to reach the American people and save our public institutions in this great century. So we have a challenge to do. And my battle is not with conservatives or Republicans. That used to be my battles in my 20s. And they beat me every time. Damn it, I work for everybody. Jimmy Carter, Walter Mondale, Jesse Jackson, Michael Dukakis, Dick Gephardt. Wasn't until that man from Hope, Arkansas came from somewhere and played that saxophone that we got ourselves back in the White House. But during that period, I did not grow weary. I worked on bills and worked on campaigns that even got me to the White House under Ronald Reagan, where I witnessed Ronald Reagan, who had once opposed the King holiday, signing it into law.
That's right. That's good.
Civility dies when you decide to give up on your citizenship and your right as American citizens to be engaged and to have dialogues with people that you disagree with respect. George Will has taken me to more Nats games than any other man in the whole United States
Donna,
of America.
I think he'd take you, but not me. He's a never Trumper, so
yeah, well, of course, but he was taking me before Donald Trump.
Yeah.
George and I have been going together for a long time.
Really?
Marty, it's okay.
Okay.
This knee, George Will even introduced me to an orthopedic surgeon.
Oh, my.
So, and when I first went on ABC, they put me by George Will. I'm like, he's quoting George Washington, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, George Mason. I thought something was wrong with him.
Yeah.
Like, do you know Tupac? Do you know who read Madison and Jefferson and Mason and Hamilton and Franklin? When I think about where we are today, and what they sacrificed and everybody else is because George Will said, well, read them. And I started to read them. It has made me a better person. Now, I still read Tupac.
No, that's good. This is a perfect segue. Perfect segue to our next part. You have great, great ideas. And this one's going to go to Mercedes. What do you believe is the starting point for repairing the fractured relationships that we've been talking about? Does it begin with average citizens, as Donna was alluding to, making the effort to engage in civil conversation about politics? Or does it begin with political leaders and elected officials who model civility in the midst of political battle? What are your thoughts?
You know, I think the American people need to demand it to a certain extent, and that they want these solutions to happen in the swamp, that they want the Republicans and the Democrats to come together. We've seen this beautifully done with like the opioids crisis, where we've been able to pass significant legislation with both parties coming together because they recognize that this is a national crisis. I mean, I take Senator Joe Manchin as an example of someone who talks to the president all the time, and they work together to, he serves as a bit of that in between with the Democrats and the Republicans in trying to solve problems. And so the more we can have of those types of relationships, I think the healthier our political process can be. You know, it's become a challenge with social media. It's become a challenge with 24-hour news cycles because the politician wants to get out in front of the media and give their response and attack their opponent and move on. And I think that it becomes challenging. But I think at the end of the day, look, we're all getting close to Thanksgiving. You're gonna maybe have your liberal cousin or your conservative uncle, and you wanna make sure that you talk about the issues that matter, and to Donna's point, find solutions that you can come together and agree on. There are things we do agree on when it comes to, for example, USMCA, the opioids crisis, criminal justice reform, which was a big win for both Republicans and Democrats. And so I think the more we can find those common ground, I think the more successful we can be. You know, it's been hard to watch Washington change. You know, you look at the time of whether it be Bill Clinton or Ronald Reagan or George Bush, where you could find, you know, there was more interaction between Republicans and Democrats. It feels nowadays that they're both in two separate corners. And, you know, I think that the idea of continuing these debates, having these discussions is important. You know, you mentioned Adam and Jefferson. Well, if you look back at John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, they hated each other. They said really mean things to each other back and forth. So it's not like this political discourse is happening now. It's happened way, way before with our founding fathers. But it is finding that common cause, of ensuring that America stays great, that America is prosperous, and that America is secure, and that all Americans have a chance for the American dream. You know, we're going to disagree on issues, But we do, in those issues that we can find common ground, we need to advance the country and unite the country in the best way we can.
Okay, thank you. All right, what do you think?
Y'all know I always have a story. So, you know, people talk about the swamp. Well, I'm actually from the bayou. We have 4 seasons: shrimp, crab, crawfish, and oysters. We find some of the best crawfish come out of the thick mud of the Mississippi or the Atchafalaya Basin. So I'm not afraid to live in a swamp. So being in D.C. is not a bad thing for me. But during the midst of one of the most horrific periods of my life, when Hurricane Katrina made landfall, my entire family went missing. I went on social media, national media, to beg for help, not just for my people, but everybody on the Gulf Coast, because I knew people were missing. At the end of the day, on September 25th, I wrote a column in the Washington Post, and I said, Mr. President, how can I help you? People were calling him a racist. They were saying that he was leaving black people to die. They were saying that he was doing X and Y, and I kept thinking, Lord have mercy, we get another one of these racial conversations that go nowhere. Pointing fingers, blaming this one, cursing at that one. I decided to say, let me help. And for 3 years, I went over to the White House. Remember, I was Al Gore's campaign manager. But I called my friend Karl Rove. And Karl and I, we're friends and we're enemies too, because I fight him. Like my brothers, I will fight him. But then I'm like, okay, I like to sit with him on the plane because he eats peanuts and I drink his wine. But I begged Karl, I said, I gotta help you. He said, well, no. I said, no, you don't understand what has happened. And the first thing I did was say, you gotta let people know that the mailman is gonna hold their mail. I mean, simple things. But for 3 years, I spent time inside the Bush administration working with Karl and Andy and everyone else, Barry Jackson, to just say, here's what the people of the Gulf Coast needed. Of course, I would go back and talk to my governor. I was on the Louisiana Recovery Board. I would talk to my mayor. But I would talk to the President of the United States. Sometime when I went into the Oval Office, he would greet me, and, you know, he's a little hugging type. I'm a hugging type too, but they were taking pictures. I said, oh my God, you're gonna ruin me. And I kept looking around like, please, Dick Cheney, don't come in here in another picture. I will never be able to go back into the hood. I said, don't ruin my rep, okay? But, ladies and gentlemen, on the 10th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, Barack Obama was president. I'm on Air Force One going home with the President of the United States. What a great honor. This little country girl get on the Air Force One. You know, the first thing I did was I took the ashtray and I put it in my bag because I knew Michelle didn't want him to smoke no more. I'm gonna turn it back soon. And the president said to me, go out with the press secretary and brief the press. And the first thing I said was, during George W. Bush presidency, here's what we did on the rebuilding side. I gave George W. Bush credit. I talked about his leadership. And I talked about what Obama inherited and what he has done since then. I gave them both credit. I didn't knock one, I didn't lift up another, I gave them both credit. And when I go home, I was born at Charity Hospital. I tell people, I say, you see that hospital there? You see that one? I remember when I went to sit in the Oval Office and talk to the president about Charity wasn't coming back, and now we have a level 1 trauma center. And my dad, a veteran with 4 Bronze Stars, my dad told me to go, like he used to tell, girl, go talk to the president, we need a new VA hospital. I'm like, the president's tired of seeing me. No, he ain't, he likes you now. I saw that picture, he kissed you. I thought my sister burned it. We got a VA hospital, a new VA hospital. That's what life should be about. I wasn't waiting on Barack Obama to come in 2008. By then, I didn't even know who I was for anyway. I just wanted to help my city, my community, and help my family. And I knew the President of the United States had the power to do that. So if you tell someone that I said that George W. Bush and I got along, he hasn't invited me to a baseball game. Invite me. I like sports, a football game, I'll go with you, sir. But if they're playing the Saints, we're gonna beat you.
Very good.
But that's who we should be.
Yeah.
Why did God give me this power to come out of the South, the Bayou, the third of 9 children? My mama made my dad's a janitor. For me to one day wake up one day and say that I have to wait for a Democrat to come to the White House when they're drowning, when they're stuck on their roof, when they don't know how to get back home? No. We're all here for a purpose. And part of that is leaving this world a better place. And we can do that regardless of who we are.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you both. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has just been a tremendous honor for all of us. I'm afraid
I
our
was just
time.
getting warmed up.
Well, I sense that.
You can still be my fire. Go Rams. I'll come and be our cheerleader.
So I just want to thank our speakers, and I hope that you will consider coming back.
I will.
This is a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And I'll make you a book signing. Book signing.
Yes.
Okay. And there will be a book signing for Donna Brazile's book that is going to take place around the corner in Shipley Hall just in the next few minutes, in
And I'll
addition
take
to a
some
reception.
selfies, although I'm not running.
And Mercedes will be available as well. Thank you so much, everyone.
you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
coming.
Madam President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shepherd.
All 3 of you.
Thank you, the Steubenvilles.
Thank you.
Bonnie and Bill.
You are all
Thank
invited. There will be a reception outside the doors. I think there's a little coffee, some water. Donna, there's a little wine out there. And, Donna, as President Hendrix said, the book signing, they'll be directed to it when you go outside. And this was our first, as you know, inaugural event of the American Conversation. I love all of you. Thank you for coming tonight. This was huge success. Please come again.
Please come again.
Oh, that was great. Oh, my gosh. I have to tell you, that was wonderful. That was so
picture.
wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much.
Mwah.
Thank
you, sis.
Oh, my gosh. We are not going to be able to top that for the second one. You're going to have to come back, right? How about to be continued?
To be continued.
Should we